The Anker F3800 Plus and the Pecron E3600 are two of the most popular, powerful, and largest power stations on the market. We have full review videos on each of these and we recommend them both quite a lot. But when it comes to spending your hard-earned money, you guys have been asking us which one's best. So today we're going to be comparing the specs and performance to determine which one is functionally better, and then we'll compare it to the price to determine if you guys should buy
this or that, or that, this or that, this or that.
So welcome back to the lab where our opinions cannot be bought. So if you guys haven't noticed, the price difference on these two units is dramatically different, even though they still fall into the same category. At the end of the day, it might just come down to what application you're going to be using these for. As always, we have links and coupon codes down in the description, so make sure that you guys check that out if you're looking for any more information on these units. But anyways, let's get into it. Let's throw these guys in a ring and see who comes out on top. So starting off with capacity, the F3800 Plus has 3,840 watt hours, and the Pecron E3600 has a battery capacity of 3,072 watt hours. 800 watt hours is quite a big difference, so the first point goes to Anker. Anker's also going to take the second point when it comes to output. It has a 6,000 watt inverter that's capable of running 120 or 240 volts, while the Pecron only does 120 volts at 3,600 watts. You can do 240 with the Pecrons, but you're going to need two of them. So in this case, just comparing unit to unit, Anker's going to take that point. Next up, surge. Based on our testing at the lab, Anker surges very well. It's able to start things that should be outside of its realm. The E3600 does surge, but just not as well as the Anker. So Anker takes another point. Anker's new Plus version also fixed their solar input. It now has a max of 3,200 watts, while Pecron is only 2,400. So that's another easy point for Anker. Both of them, when it comes to charging them with a regular wall outlet, can charge at 1,800 watts. However, the Anker has a 240 volt charger. You can charge one unit at 3,300 watts. And you can charge one unit and one expansion battery at 4,500. And you can get all the way up to 6,000 watts with two expansion batteries and one unit. While those are additional accessories, the E3600 comes with the 30 amp charger in the box. So you can charge it at 1,800 watts with a regular plug or 3,600 watts with that 30 amp charger. So just comparing it unit to unit without any expansion batteries or other accessories that you have to buy on top of that, the E3600 does charge faster. So that's Pecron's first point, possibly Pecron's only point. When it comes to the sound, we've said many times that the Pecron fans usually sound like grumbling beehives. It's a very gritty sound for a fan. The Anker isn't as quiet as some other EcoFlow products, but it is definitely much more quiet than the E3600. Anker gets another point. When it comes to the functionality, starting with the ports and plugs, Anker has 6 120 volt plugs, a 240 volt generator adapter, a 30 amp style plug, but it's only 25 amps, 2 USBs and 2 USB-Cs, as well as a 12 volt car socket. The Pecron only has 4 120 volt plugs. It does have a true 30 amp. It does have 2 USBs and 2 USB-Cs. Pecron also has a couple barrel connectors, but most people aren't going to use that. So because Anker has 2 extra 120 plugs and does 240 volts, it's going to get the point for ports and plugs. Looking at the screens though, Anker has a traditional power station screen that we're all familiar with. It shows you everything that you need to know, where the E3600 actually has a really nice touchscreen. You can change a lot of settings on there that you would normally need an app to do, which is kind of a huge pro in our opinion. It just makes things a little bit easier. So when it comes to the screen, we're actually going to give that point to Pecron. When it comes to the UPS, the Anker is limited to the 1,800 watt charger, so it only can output a maximum of roughly 1,800 watts. When you use the Pecron, if you're charging it with a 30 amp adapter, you can output pretty much 3,600 watts while it's still plugged in, so you have more room for devices. So even though Anker does have the other 240 volt adapters that you can purchase separately, unit to unit, Pecron is going to take that point. So for functionality overall, we're going to give this point to Pecron. In terms of look and feel, honestly, I'm just not a huge fan of the Pecron. You might not care about this, but the Anker does look better. It feels just a little bit more premium, and it would look better in your home if it was sitting in a corner. So we're going to give that point to Anker. When it comes to the portability, well, Pecron does have the rubber bump stops on the sides just to protect it if you're moving it around and it might by chance bump on something. The Anker has a suitcase handle and caster wheels on the bottom, as well as the large wheels when you're tipping it and using that suitcase handle. It also has has a little hidden handle for team lifting it underneath. And so even though it is heavier, it's definitely more portable and easier to move around when you're using those wheels. So Anker gets another point. For the scalability, Anker's not going to stop taking points. You can scale the Anker to 53.8 kilowatt hours. That is significantly more than the Pecron. It's kind of outrageous. No one's going to probably do that, but when you're looking at the Pecron expandability, it can only do a maximum of 15.3. So Anker easily steals that point. And talking about customer support, Anker, we've mystery shopped them not too long ago. They are fantastic. Pecron has recently gotten a phone number and they are answering the phone, which is a step in the right direction, but they still have a long way to go if they're going to try and compete with Anker support. So Anker gets another point. Now we're getting to the most important point, Robbie's rants and requirements. Guess who gets this point? Anker has a 12-volt car socket and kind of a goofy, poor excuse for a light on the top of it. Well, the Pecron has a 12-volt car socket, but no light whatsoever.
So because I'm Robbie, and this is Robbie's rants and requirements, I deem Anker gets this point by one very small split hair.
So Anker just beat the devil out of the Pecron when it comes to the points, but we're getting to the last one, which is sometimes the most important one, and it comes to price. The F3800 Plus right now is $2,799. It usually fluctuates in and around the $3,000 range, whereas right now the E3600 is only $1,259, and that's before our discount code. So Pecron easily steals that point, but you're probably thinking, well, the Anker can do 240. That could be a huge deal for you. So if you need to do 240, you can actually pair two of the E3600s together and get that 240 port. So at the time of filming right now, if you get those two units with the 240 volt hub, you're going to be spending about $2,618. So you're still cheaper than one F3800, but there is one crucial thing here that you need to know, and that is if you are trying to charge it with an AC charger, you won't be able to output 240 volts. So let's say you're in a situation where you have this hooked up to a sub panel in a tiny home and you don't have access to solar power. If you go and grab a generator and try to charge this up, you're going to be out of power for the total time that it takes for it to charge. Let's say that's maybe 3 hours of charge time. For those 3 hours, you will have no power whatsoever, unless you're outputting only 120 volts. Definitely just something to keep in mind if you really need that 240 volts and you don't want interrupted power when charging with AC like using a generator. But if that doesn't affect you, then this is a crazy good deal. It gets you just over 7,000 watts of inverter, 6,000 watt hours of battery, and double all the plugs and ports. So we're gonna give Pecron a bonus point just for being able to do that at that price. So at the end of the day, obviously the points still say Anker. In our opinion, Anker is obviously a better single unit. If that charging thing doesn't affect you, then obviously the double bundle is kind of a no-brainer. If you just need a cheaper recreational use power station, we would recommend the Pecron. For me personally, I love the fact that the Pecron is cheaper, but when I'm using a power station for the tiny home, in the winter when I have no solar, I need to be able to output 240 volts to a panel while charging from a generator. So in this case for me, it just simply wouldn't work. But let us know what you guys think. There are links down in the description below with any coupon codes that you guys could use. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Anyways, that's all we got for you guys for this one. Peace out and stay charged.